Note to self, maybe edit the beginning of the video this time when there's a bunch of nothing going on. Okay, cool. That's a marker for me. Okay, so the question that Z asked in her homework, which was a really good question, is, and I can just, is it cool if I show your question? I'll take that as a yes. So in creating the buttons, they're touching here, right? Which is annoying because in the original thing they weren't touching. So let me kind of show you why that happens, right? Let me open up robots. Oh, let's do this. Let's just oops. Okay. Let's open the after. All right, cool. Damn it. Shit. Let's see. Do I have mine? No. Great. Just great. I have an older version. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Just talk amongst yourselves. Probably should have done this before, but I didn't know we were going to ask this. Okay, so let's look at this. Buttons. Button, button. These two buttons next to each other, right? Button, button. I'll give you a little sort of hint here. So first of all, notice these are display inline block. Oops, I didn't mean to click that, and now everything's messed up. Okay, so these are display inline block. Actually, ooh, it's okay. Take your time. It's just kind of funny. And we're back. All right. So, of the three related display types, there's block, and inline, right? Let's just change them to see the difference. So, block. Whoa, weird. It takes up. Oh, yeah. Block. Ew. It's taking up a whole line. This is probably a bad example. Let's go to our fiddle. Let's do this one more time. Super important to know the difference. I think the easiest thing is div is display block by default, right? It's always display block. So let's just put I am a thing. Span is always display inline by default. You can change this, but without changing it, it is inline. Like I am inline. Here, I'll do it. I am block level. Cool? And you can kind of see the difference here when you apply some styling to it. Or white, not going to help. Blue, bless you, whoever sneezed. I'm always listening. Okay. This should kind of like bring it home a little bit, right? That's the difference between block and inline right there. Block, display, takes up the full width of the container. Inline only takes up the width it needs to take up. And that's it, right? But then the problem here is that if you want to do stuff like padding or like margin top, 20 pixels, you can do that on a div. Or let's make it padding so you can see it even better, right? I just added 20 pixels. Oh, I can do it there too. Shit. Oh, sorry. Better example. Height. I'm going to try to make the height of this 200 pixels and try to make the height of this 200 pixels. Sorry, I just forgot which things were which. How annoying is that, right? Oh, shit. This is a great example right here. So block, you can do height, you can do other stuff like different paddings and margins will work on if something is blocked. If something is inline, like that doesn't work. You can't set the height, right? So, but sometimes we want things to be able to be displayed kind of like inline, but we also want to be able to do stuff to them, right? Like let's say we have another span here. So am I. Me too. Right? See, that's cool. We have these three things. But like we can't do anything to them. Right? Like we can't change their heights. So if we change these, so right now if our spans are display inline. I didn't have to write that. I just want to do it so you get it. So run. Same thing. Good. So now if I make this inline block, now this height works, right? So inline block is kind of a nice way of using inline while also giving you some of the abilities of block level, right? One weird thing about this is a total bug, I think, in the way the browsers handle inline block. Is it? I know I've told you repeatedly that white space doesn't really mean anything, right? In HTML, like white space, right? Like you can just do whatever you want, and like it doesn't make any difference here, right? Same thing. This is one of those situations where white space actually matters, right? So let's do this way. Isn't that weird and annoying? It's so annoying. It's just a bug. I mean, that's the way browsers work. It's part of life. Like if you add a return, it's a space. Or even if you have a space, you get that. Sucks. I know. Like I said, all our tools are broken, and this is just the state of the internet. So if we go back to what we were looking at, now when this HTML is written by hand, I have spaces in it, right? Like, yeah, this right here, right? See, there's a space. But now, if I just get rid of all the spaces and do it like that, does everybody see this? Put on the same line. Now it's touching. So, what can you do? You can add a margin in the CSS. Sucks. You could, I don't know. I think the real thing is that generally you don't really write HTML the way we did it in that assignment. So you probably don't have to worry about that. But it's good to know about this bug, right? Or some would call it not a bug, some would call it a feature. It's a feature. It's a feature. Yeah, so I don't know. Next time somebody tells you that you did something wrong in your assignment, tell them that's how it's supposed to be. And maybe they'll not fail you. Okay, so with that was a good question. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? No? Why am I not surprised? All right, so let's start what we were supposed to talk about last time and didn't talk about, but now we're going to do it. Okay? I love questions. We could spend like seriously 20 minutes just asking questions right now. We have time.
So like usually it's like on the left side, the text will start from the left side, but in this one it's like starting, it's like setting in the middle.
Which one?
For this to do.
Yeah, here. Which point like this? Oh, got it. Yeah. Yeah. Let me pull that up. How did we do that? Okay. So it's got to be margin 0 auto. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. This is like kind of a trick, we'll say, that is used to center things on a page, and it has to do with this down here. Auto. You set your margins to be auto. But only your left and your right. And what it does is it centers it. A good example. Let's just show you something here. So let's set up another thing. Div id equals wrapper. And syntax. So that's what it looks like, right? Let's do this. Okay, you can see it, right? Let's give it a border just so you can see it better. Ah! Ay, la madre que te parió. Sorry, I just can't type today. Give me a break. All right, now I can actually see it a little better. Okay, so in order for this trick to work, so I'm going to do this. So margin 0 auto. Do you remember what that shorthand means? Do you remember the shorthand means? What is the 0 referring to? What's that? Forgot. It's okay. So when you do your margin like this with only 2 arguments, this 0 refers to the top margin and the bottom margin. So they're both the same. They're both 0. And then the second one refers to left and right. Exactly. Yeah. So top, bottom, left, right. You could also, if you like typing, you could write this like this. Same thing. Same thing. If you really like typing, you could say, God, this sucks. I can't believe I'm doing this. Actually, the best way to do it is really write. Oh, God. Jesus. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, done. Right? So you can see why it's a little easier to just write that. Okay? Alright, so I think we all understand the point. I'm going to delete this because it's ugly, and we're good. Alright, so now I'm going to do this. And what's going to happen? It's just going to be centered, right? No. No. Because this is a block level element, so it just takes up the full width. And the margins auto, just nothing. It's just 0. So what you have to do if you want to use this technique to center is your container, your element, needs a width. And we can give it a width by saying width, right? Width. Let's make it 400 pixels wide. And hit run. There we go. Now it's centered, right? Right in the page. It's always going to be 400 wide, right? It doesn't flex. One thing we could do is we could say max width. That means the maximum width this can ever be is 400, but it could be anything in between as well. So let's hit run. And now notice this thing is like moving in size, which is kind of nice. You see max width a lot for responsive design because it allows things to be smaller. Yeah. So you might say max width 400, but I don't want to get crazy here. I'm going to make the min width like 300. That means that this box, here, 1 second. Actually, I can't see because of the word result right there. I just want to move this out of the way. 50 pixels, whatever. Okay, cool. Yeah. So now it's always going to be. You see how my box is moving there? Right? It's because the minimum this can be is 300. Once I get smaller than 300, it stops. Or smaller than 301, it stops. And once I get bigger than 400, it stops. And it's just centered. So that's how that works.
How about put the padding to center the text padding?
It's not the best idea. The best thing to do would just be to
Change the autos.
text align. Bam. Wait. There's also, wait, does this work? You can also do text align right. right? I believe there's justify, which will like make things
Justify strings.
better. 1 second. Dynamic text generator. What? These aren't the ones. Oh, wait, sorry. Dummy text generator. I don't know what I was doing. There we go. It's easier to have a bit of text here to do this with.
You need a generator to do dummy text.
Well, because I just want a lot of it. There we go. So you see what justify does? It makes it like line up nicely. I don't know if this works in character-based languages, but somebody will have to try that. And then left, so you can kind of see the differences, right? There's another thing we can do here. Is this a thing? Is that text direction? No. Is that a thing? Did I make that up? Oh, sorry. Direction. Whoa. Does anyone know what that means? Direction? RTL? What? It means right to left. Because some languages go right to left, some go left to right. By default, that's always LTR, but you could also do right to left. I have never used that before, but I've only done websites in like English, so I don't know. Maybe it's useful. Let me know. I have no idea. Okay, cool. So that's the centering thing. Cool. Anything else? Cool. That was fun. Any other questions?
Question.
Yeah, bring it.
This dot happen. I don't create it.
I know, right? Isn't that annoying?
Yeah.
That's a good question. All right, let's talk about it. So, the question there was, what is up with the dot? Wait. I have no idea. Can I see your laptop? Because I don't have a dot. I don't have it. Let's see here. Well, let me look at the rendered markup and see what the deal is. That's probably part of it. Got it. So, can I plug it in? Yeah? Awesome. All right, everybody, check this out. We're going on the fly here. It's people watching on a video. I'm using a different computer now, so go do something else. Sorry. You know, maybe if more people subscribe to the YouTube channel, I would put more time into trying to make them better. But it's still hovering at like 3, so whatever. Okay, so the question is why does this have a dot here? Now, the thing is that when you create a list item, by default, they have, this is called a bullet. Like a bullet, like, I don't know why it's called that, it's called a bullet. And the bullet is just saying, you know, this is a list item, right? Now, I included a class called list unstyled that gets rid of those bullets. But the problem, does anybody spot the error here? Anybody? Well, for one thing, class names can't have spaces. So this right here, this is surrounded by spaces. So if I just get rid of that, save it, go over here. Still doesn't work. Why is this? Oh, there we go. And they're gone, right? It's just because there were hyphens in the name. Now let me kind of go deeper into the bullet thing. Thank you. No, thank you. I could do this all day.
Provide your wrong example.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's how we learn, by breaking things and then trying to fix them. Wait, let me just stop this real quick. It gets weird. Okay, so all right, another kind of question is, yeah, where did the dot come from in the first place, right? Let's examine that a little bit. Oops. Okay. So that's what those bullets are, right? They're just there by default. This is an unordered list, meaning these items have no order. You can change these though. Square. You can make them different things. If you just look up the documentation for like list style, there's a lot of different things you can do with these. Like you can even use your own if you wanted to. You could use like a background image. If you don't want to show anything, you just say none. Now they're gone. Yeah. So what I usually do is I'll create something called like something like this, right? Like a really like, oh wait, sorry. Does that make sense? The point about this is like, I can now reuse this called list unstyled. I can give any UL the class list unstyled, and it's gonna get rid of like all that stuff, right? I mean, you might even take this a little further, and you know, you could say, oh, list unstyled, margin 0, padding 0. I want to really make this like, I want to really remove all the styling from it, right? Because by default, some browsers will give 20 pixels on the left. Some will say like 18, some 22. Like, so a good thing to do is just 0 everything, right? So we talked about frameworks. Remember that? Frameworks like Bootstrap, Foundation. Bootstrap actually has something called list unstyled. I just kind of took that from Bootstrap, and it just kind of, it does mostly this. I mean, we could look into see exactly what it's doing, but it's something like this. It's just removing all the base styles, so that then you could go in later and add your own stuff. Yeah. So that's that. Anything else? No. Now's the time. Okay. Well, good deal. All right. Okay, so we're gonna let's move on. So today, intro to jQuery. Though I feel like we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, it's okay. Because I think you guys probably know enough to where you can start to maybe be somewhat dangerous, which is good. You can break things. So I guess up until now, you know, we've talked about HTML, then we talked about CSS, right? So structuring documents and then styling documents, and then with JavaScript, now we've kind of gotten to the point where we can like add some behaviors to things, right? We can manipulate the DOM, right? The document object model, the HTML on a page, and we kind of touched on events a little bit. But I think now it's time to show you sort of a better way, right? So I kind of showed you this last time. It should be painfully obvious from the last assignment that there's a better way, right? Like that's just, we wrote so much stuff that did basically nothing, right? So there's got to be a better way and a better tool. And thankfully, there is. So I guess the first question you might ask is what is jQuery, right? So from their website, there's a lot of words here. It's a fast, small, feature-rich JavaScript library. Let's just stop right there. What is a library when we talk about code? Anyone is familiar with libraries, right? Like you probably spend a lot of time there. But it in this world, library really just means a collection of like reusable software code that you can apply to, you know, a lot of different types of problems and projects. That's all it is. So jQuery is a library. It's a bunch of code. You don't have to really read the internals to understand what it's doing, but it provides you a way to do a lot of common tasks really easily. That's a library. So it makes things like HTML document traversal and manipulation. Does that make sense? Document traversal? That's stuff like get element by ID. Remember that? Or like append child. Append. What was the word for append again? Shelly. Append. No, you translated it for me last time. Yeah, that word. Append. Append child. Yeah. Moving around the DOM. And once again, when I say DOM, are we tracking what I mean when I say that? Or has that just been lost completely forever? The DOM. What is the DOM? What's the DOM?
Type of the document.
Not exactly. The DOM just refers to really the whole document object itself. It refers to everything between your HTML tags, right? Everything. That's the DOM. Anytime you look at a website, right? Let's go to the course website again. Yeah, document object model. What she said. This in here. This is all the DOM, right? All these elements, and we call it the DOM tree because it's kind of like a branch with a leaf and another leaf, you know. So this is the DOM tree. So jQuery helps with moving through the DOM, adding things to the DOM, subtracting things to the DOM. Also event handling. We haven't really gotten into events yet, but when you click on something, that's an event, right? When you submit a form, that's an event. And we'll get into those more later. Animation, just moving stuff on the screen, and Ajax, which we'll get to in a bit later, soon. So it's easier because of its easy-to-use API. Hold on to that. That works across a lot of browsers. One of the best thing about jQuery is that without it, if you want to support Internet Explorer and Chrome and Safari and Firefox, sometimes they do things differently. So you have to write the same thing 4 times or 3 times in order for it to do what you want it to do. jQuery is really good about just leveling everything. So instead of calling 4 different functions, you call one function, and it internally is checking to see kind of what your browser supports and what it doesn't support. And then that's like marketing stuff. Yeah, marketing speak. Great. With a combination of versatility and extensibility. I mean, it really has changed the way people write JavaScript. A lot of people don't really know JavaScript, but they know jQuery really well, which, I don't know. I think it's a bad way to do it, but it's good to know a little bit of both. Okay. All right, so let's just jump right into examples. So, do we remember this year? What does this do? Get elements. I mean, it literally does what it says, right? It literally gets elements by their class name. So, if something on this page has a class name of foo, it's going to be rendered into this variable. What type of variable would this be? What's that? That's right. Anybody else? What type of what? Yeah, that's correct. But I want to hear somebody else say it too. Shelly, what is this? Text? If we're going to get all the elements on the page that have a certain class name, there might be 20 of them. So how are they going to be rendered into this variable? Or come on, you can do it. It's not a number. It's not a Boolean. An array. Exactly. Good word. So it's an array, right? And these it's an array, and each element of that array, or each item in that array, is an element type, right? Ugh, confusing. Each item in the array is an element. It gets a little less complicated. And then there's also like this, get element by ID. So if something has an ID equals bar, then this would get that. We should be a little more comfortable with this stuff by now, right? Like we talked about this for a really long time. So bar, yeah. Now you can see like typing this out all the time sucks, right? Like it just takes forever and ever and ever. So jQuery has a very convenient way of doing this, and it's with the $sign function, right? So instead of writing document.getElements by class name, like an idiot, you type $, right? Just $, and that's it. And then instead of document.getElement by ID, you type that. Now the difference, obviously there's a difference here, right? When I look by class name, it just says foo, and by ID, it just says bar, right? But when I'm using jQuery, I'm using the dot and the hash. So these are, you have to use what's called a selector. We've kind of talked about selectors. Something equivalent. We looked at the function document query selector all. Did you guys remember that one? Probably not. Query selector all works pretty much the same way as the $sign function. And it's a member of the document. It's a method of the document object. Let me show you what I mean real quick. Query selector all. Just go here. So this is the documentation on it. It works pretty much the same. This is basically saying, give me all divs that have a class name called note and all divs that have a class name of alert, right? Why is it a class name? Because of the dot. So really, the $function is really more, it's more like this, because you just use a selector. And, selectors are kind of like a skill, like learning how to write what a selector is. It's basically identifying an element on your page using this CSS notation, right? So that's kind of like the basics of the $function. It's just getting elements on a page, right? Now, one cool thing you can do, so we use this JS Fiddle tool a lot. So it'd be nice if we could use jQuery in here too, right? So what you can do over here is on the left-hand side where it says non-library. We just learned what a library is, right? It's just a bunch of code together. So I think you can have some reasonable expectation that when we open this dropdown, we're going to see something like jQuery, right? Now you can see jQuery is not the only library in existence, right? There's MooTools, jQuery, Prototype, UE, Glow, Dojo. I mean, there's a lot of these things. Processing, EXT, There's tons. There are a lot. Angular. Yeah. But, on your own time. So jQuery, generally it's good to take, the edge means that it's maybe not completely ready for production. We could probably use it, but let's just use this safe 2.1, right? jQuery mobile, Bootstrap. We don't really need that, and we can do it on load. All right, so now let's look at some of those selectors that we just wrote real quick. So what did I do here? I had, let's try this out. Okay, and now let's open our console so we can log stuff. Oh wait, no, let's put it here. Nice. Do we remember what the log is? I hope we remember what the log is. Okay. Let's run it. Oh wait, I didn't log it. Oopsie. Okay, great. We've logged it out, and it's a div with the class name of foo, right? That's what that's doing. So with jQuery, we can do the same thing, but using our $sign function. So should really be the same thing. And there it is. And you can see there's like other stuff in there. But I mean, the point is we have a reference to this thing, which is kind of nice. Oh shit. So you might be like, okay, great. So what? Like we just selected that thing, right? The point is that now you can do stuff to it, right? We have a reference to this foo thing. So if we want to, change its color or move it or do something, like we have a reference to it. And now that we're using the jQuery library, we can take advantage of some of those things as well. Is this concept of the selector clear to everybody? Selectors, yeah? Cool, all right. So let me come back to one thing. I mentioned the word API earlier in here, right? It's easy to use API. So what is an API? What it is essentially is it's kind of a contract that a program makes that specifies how other programs can get information or manipulate your program, right? We've kind of seen this when looking at our DOM manipulation. Remember we looked at that page that had all the methods for the document and all the methods for the element, like create element, get element by class name. That page, that was all really an API. Like do any of you really know what's happening when you do document.createElement? Like when you were typing that, like no one really I mean, not nobody, but like no one in this room certainly, I don't even know what's really happening, right? Like you type document.createElement div, and next thing you know, you have a div and you append it. But the thing is, knowing the API allows you to do a lot of kind of higher level things without understanding the deep internals of how a browser renders stuff, right? So just because you don't know what create element is doing like under the hood in the like deep dark internals doesn't mean that you can't use it and reliably get something that's useful. So to that end, jQuery has a really nice API that you can check out. I want to go through it a little more in depth in a minute, but let's just look at it kind of, initially here. And this is just api.jquery.com, very useful site. You can kind of see API, A to Z, right? A to Z. There's a lot of functions, right? And each one of these functions does something that's kind of in some of these categories here. But like just looking through animate, right? And then you can look at animate and see what happens. Oh, okay. Scroll down to examples. Always just scroll down to examples. There we go. Basic usage, right? So, like this obviously this might not make sense yet. The point is that using the API is a good way to figure out what all this stuff does, right? Callbacks. Bleh. I mean, also there's so many things here. You could never just go through all of this. So it's better to just use this side thing and like determine what you're trying to do, right? Like, are you trying to do effects, events, forms, manipulation, like inserting and stuff, offset, yeah. There's a lot here. Traversing, filtering. But anyway, I want to go through this a little more in depth in a minute, but just wanted to like let you know that it exists. Is this all clear? API? some other APIs you might have heard of. Do you guys use Twitter? Yeah? Twitter has a really cool API, right? Whoa, crazy. Let's go down here, REST APIs. So if you know a website's API, then you can like manipulate that website, right? Or you can use that data's website to create your own application. Or, like for instance, Twitter has get statuses, right? Get all the retweets of me. You can show a particular tweet, right? Get is getting information. Post is like creating information. Statuses, user timeline. So with this API call here, right? You would examples. So you would say api.com. Let's actually try this out. Oh, bad authentication data. A lot of times you have to send like a key or some kind of password along with it, but I don't know. You probably you get the point, right? Like if you have API access, then you can use other websites' data to do whatever you want. So that's that. And a lot of websites have APIs, not just Twitter. I mean, most good websites have an API if they have a lot of data. All right. So let's talk loading jQuery. Where do you get it, right? How would you get this thing? Well, first of all, it's free. It's open source, right? So you can do whatever you want with it. You can download it. You can call it How's Query if you wanted to. You could do that. And then sell it. You should do that. Billionaire. It might. I don't know if the license might not let you do that, but I think it would. Anyway, so whatever. You can download and host it locally, or you can use it from what's called a CDN. That stands for Content Delivery Network. Did we talk about these already? What's that?
Bootstrap. We
Oh yeah, we kind of did, right? Because we got Bootstrap from a CDN. Yeah, I'll just briefly go over it. A CDN is a place where files are stored, and they're stored so that they can be downloaded really quickly. Oftentimes, a CDN will be distributed geographically, or the content's distributed so that if you're accessing it from a particular location, you're going to get the file closer to you. So if you're accessing a file from New York, that file is going to come from New York, not from California, because that takes longer, right? And then here's one of the CDNs. I think they actually have a link to it. So the download link, just go to jQuery.com, download, and there's a bunch of words here that you could read if you want. 1.0 is kind of like for old people, so we're going to not use it. We're going to use 2.0 because it's for young people. So then here, look, download the compressed production jQuery 2.1. That's probably let's just do that. Oh, there we go, bam. So that would work. I'll just download it. I haven't downloaded it in a while. Cool, that's on the way. And then there's Bower, which is beyond the scope of probably this class right now, but whatever. CDN. CDNs can offer a performance benefit because a lot of people use these files, and so there's a good chance that it's already in their browser cache, right? So one of the easiest ways to get jQuery, don't worry about this migrate file. We don't need it. One of the best ways is to just copy it right from here. jQuery 111.min. I use this CDN a lot. I don't know why, just because it's Google. And I like it. Right here. Bam. 2.x. And you just grab this right here. The other thing is, yeah. Oh, I see. 1x, 2x. Yeah. Bam. One thing that I got to point out here that's going to cause problems. Do you guys see this / right here? So what this is saying is to download the file from whatever protocol you're currently using right now. Huh? What? What protocol are we using right now? HTTP, exactly. What protocol are we using right now? Yes, right. They're different. They're different things. What protocol am I using here? File, right? What? What's that? We haven't learned that, right? We haven't learned that. But it's just like any other, really. Like, it's just a protocol. The problem is that if you try to load... Oh, Dan Kelly, what's up, man? Kind of teaching a class right now. Later. Jesus Christ. He knows this, too. He knows I'm doing this. So wait, what was I saying? Look at it, he writes back. What an asshole. Yeah. Everyone is laughing at you. Alright. Okay. Alright. Or maybe me. Hi class. He just wrote back hi class. Anyway. Okay. So when you write a script include like this, it's this when you write // instead of writing HTTP:// it's saying use whatever protocol you're currently using. Okay? Now if you're on HTTP or HTTPS, that would mean use HTTP or HTTPS. If I'm on a file protocol, then it would mean use file. Now, your local file system doesn't know where that is, right? Does that make sense? That you're like when you open a file from a folder, it's going to usually say that, right? File, like when you guys open your files like that. Now, if you've included that script tag, it's not going to know where to find it. So you can't just copy and paste that. Well, you can, but you have to change it a little bit. So let me create a new file here to show you what I mean. Okay, that was just weird. Okay, so I am going to do what I just said not to do, which was copy and paste it directly, right? Where is it? Okay. I don't understand this. Why does it say? Oh, whatever. CDN, sorry. Wait, I don't. What's all this migrate stuff? Ugh. Alright, I'm just going to download. I'll just copy this one. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that this won't work, right? Let's just see why it doesn't work. Oh, look, I got an error. Failed to load resource. Error, file not found, right? It's because I'm on the wrong protocol. So if I just go back here and edit this, make it say HTTP:// save. And we're good. The error's gone, right? Is that clear? Now, later on, when we actually set up a server and are opening our files from a server, then that's not a problem anymore, right? Like, I could very easily right now, here, I'm going to go back to this the way it was before. If I just set up like a really simple server, port 8710. Oh, whoops. I'm in the wrong folder. See, it worked there. Because, why? What protocol am I using? HTTP, exactly. It's not there, but you know it's there. So, cool. So now that we've gone through that long-winded explanation of write HTTP before your includes, we can go back to what we were talking about in the first place. So you can download it and host it locally. Does anybody know how you would download it and host it locally? Do you know how to download stuff? Yeah, you know how to download stuff. Okay. What does that mean? It's actually really simple. When I say host it locally, I just mean put it in your directory, really, right? So I'm gonna this is the file I downloaded, right? I downloaded jQuery 211, right? And now I'm gonna just go to the wherever I was here. This file I just created, index. I'm just gonna drag that into my project, right? And now I've got jQuery next to my file, so now I can just refer to it, right? And we've done that before. That shouldn't be too crazy, right? So, and do you remember how to do that? How would I do this here? Anybody? Anybody? Come on, work with me. How do I refer to this file here? Okay. Let's okay, get rid of that. I want to refer to I want to use this JavaScript file, right? So how do I do that? Source. What do I make the source? First of all, what tag should I be using? Script tag. Okay. Let's fire up a script tag. Oopsie. Okay. And then what's the attribute? Source. Type, we don't need. It's implied that it's JavaScript, so we don't need to put type. We could, but we don't need to. Source, src equals, and we do quotes. So how do we refer to this file? It's right here. Just type it, right? Yeah, super simple. jQuery-2.1.1.min.js. Just like that. Sorry, I swear I paid for that. Yeah, that's it. So we just included jQuery. So now we could do stuff if we wanted to, if we're so inclined. Yeah. So I guess the whole point there was just to basically drive home that these are basically equivalent, right? It's kind of like the same thing. Granted, that's the wrong version. That's 111. That's 2.2.1.1. But so this file is coming from local, right? This is this file right here. But this file here is coming from the internet. Sorry, like that, right? Is that clear? That should be pretty clear. All good? Okay. What would happen if I did both of these? Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I don't want to find out. You shouldn't include both. Just one or the other is fine. Let's go with the local one for now because it's faster. Because we don't have to go out over the internet to get it every time. We're just getting it right here from our computer. So that's cool. Okay. So, all right. Now go. So there's a couple of ways that your jQuery code can get executed, right? Now jQuery is just JavaScript, right? It's not another language. It's not any. It's just a framework, a library, right? It just has an API, and we kind of need to learn how to use the API. That's it. But that said, this dollar function is loaded by jQuery, right? jQuery creates this variable. It creates something called, I know it's weird because it's just a dollar sign, but when you see this, you can pretty much think of jQuery, right? But like we saw before, you can't use a variable unless you've already defined it, right? that make sense? Like you can't use a variable called foo before you've written var foo equals, right? You have to define it first because this stuff executes like line by line. So one way, like kind of similarly, in order for jQuery, in order to do anything useful with jQuery, it helps to have the whole file loaded, right? So if we go back to the way files get loaded, which is actually kind of important when we're doing this. So when your browser gets to an HTML file, the first thing it does is it executes whatever is in the head, right? Whatever. Like if you put your, that's why we generally put our CSS here. A lot of times we have our JavaScript in here, and this stuff all gets executed. And then what happens is the body gets executed line by line, right? So if I have my jQuery script here, and let's say I have some JavaScript here, and I do, remember how we did before, var foo equals foo, right? I'm actually going to create a thing too. Is this clear what this is doing? Anybody? A little unclear what it's doing? Don't lie. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. It's totally cool. I'm saying give me all the elements that have a class name of foo, right? In this case, how many elements is that? One? One. Yeah. So it's an array with one item, right? If you think about it as like a data structure, it's an array with one item. And then we're just going to log that, right? So do you think this will work? Does anyone think this won't work for any reason? Why would this not work? I don't know. I think it's going to work personally. Does anybody think of a reason why it might not work? No? Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's look at our console. And there it is. Yeah. Selector foo. It's kind of got this weird notation, but you know, it's right there. Selector foo, length 1. Cool. It worked. Now, what about this? Do you see what I did? What did I do? Anybody? Like, what did I just do? Like, literally just did. What did I do? Yeah. So, is this going to work now? Tell me why you think this might not work. Yeah. Like, remember, if we execute line by line, so just think about it. Line, body, blank line. Cool. Do nothing. My favorite thing to do. Boom. Script tag. Okay, that means I now have to execute this stuff. Next line. Blank line. Do nothing. Next line. Oh, foo is equal to, give me all the elements that have class name of foo. But we've only gone this far. You can only scan what you've already gotten to, right? So at this point, I don't think it's going to work. Let's go see if it's going to work. Wow. Oh, shit. So, oh, shit. Yeah, this actually totally just worked. Oh, shit. Oh, that's bizarre. It's so weird. Oh, okay. Huh. I guess you learn something new every day. I did not think that would work. Okay. So then why would you ever need to? Okay. Damn, that's amazing. Oh, okay. No. Yeah, I was right. Okay. I think if you look at this down here, it's a little weird because the length of this is 0, right? Meaning it's an array with nothing in it, right? So it couldn't find it. It probably would make a little more sense instead of consoling that to console like to alert so there are this many foods, 0, right? There was 0 found on the page. If we go back and move this up one or up above it and we refresh, there are 1, right? So you might be thinking, okay, so what? I'll just put all my JavaScript at the bottom. But sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you want to have your scripts in the body, but maybe your elements haven't all come in yet. So the way jQuery handles this is you have a couple of different ways of doing it. You have 3 options here, okay? 1, just put it at the bottom, right? Just put everything at the bottom. That will always work every time, right? Because line by line, once it gets to the bottom, everything's there. So this will always work. That's what we just did. This is the simplest thing. It's not the most flexible, though. You'll see why, but just trust me, it's really not that flexible. Then there's 2 options here that we can do. And both of these work great. This is kind of a shortcut. Handler is a shortcut for document.ready. So let's kind of like walk through this. Document is not in quotes. Notice that, right? What does document refer to when we type that in JavaScript? What does document refer to? The DOM. Yeah, exactly. It refers to the document object. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So disregard everything after the parentheses, right? Disregard the red. So the dollar function does what? It kind of like gets it gets elements, right? It's used for selecting, right? Yeah, it gets elements. So what else? Like, what do we have? What do we have here right now? Just the document, right? We have the whole document. So then what we do after that is we execute a function called ready, right? And what ready does is when the document is fully loaded, whatever's in this, the ready executes, basically. That's what happens. Whatever's in there will get executed. But you have to pass ready a function, okay? Confusing already, I can tell. Example, so much easier. A lot of times, like this document ready stuff, like you might find yourself copying it and pasting it a lot until you finally understand what it means. But I think it actually is probably better. I think this makes more sense. There should be a handler. When I say handler in here, I mean a function, though, right? I should probably put this in parentheses, in italics or something. Yeah, because it's not defined. It's your own custom function. Let's see what that means. So I'm going to document.ready, and now I have to give ready a handler function, right? I'm going to pass it a function. I'm going to do that by just typing in the function keyword and opening a new function. And now I'm going to put this. Oopsie. Oh my god, I forgot how to be a robot. Okay.
How can you do this?
What?
Select the line and move it.
Um,
How's that possible?
on Sublime, it's Command Control up down. I'm not sure what it is on Atom though. I don't know. I'm sure you can do it. I just don't know how to do it. What's going on here? All right. I lost you. Do I have you? Are you with me? Yeah? Okay. So now, what I'm saying here is, hey, document, when you're ready, execute this function. Right? So what's going to happen is I'm going to go line by line. I'm going to get to script. I'm going to get to this line. It's going to read this function in, and it's going to it's going to execute this function later once everything's done, right? And then it's going to keep going. And then now once basically you hit the last line of the file, then this stuff's going to execute. So let's see it happen. Whoopsie. Okay. There we go. There's one foo again. So it's really nice to not type a bunch of stuff. So instead of doing the document ready thing like this format way quicker, right? So let's do that format real quick. Really, all it is this. And let's try it out. And it works. So that's really it. So essentially, all we're really saying here is if you want your jQuery stuff to work anywhere, regardless of where it is in the DOM, so if this is your code, you just have to put it in between this, right? That's it. Is that clear? Hopefully. A little weird, but it makes sense. I think the hardest part to explain is probably the whole concept of a handler, a function that is, so like this is a function right here that's not actually executed. Like you're not actually executing it. jQuery executes it as soon as it's done. Let's look at this a different way. Let's create a function. Oh, we already have a function. Let's make it not look so crazy. Okay. Oh, we have to give it a name. Do foo. Right? Or find foos, I'll call it. Find foo count. That is actually what it's doing, right? I do this a lot. Get foo count. Way better. Okay, so if I call this right on line 15, is it going to work? What do we think? If I call it right here. I'm gonna call it how it is. I'm gonna call it in a couple different places, right? I'm gonna call it before I even define the function. I'm gonna call it after I define the function, and then I'm gonna call it a third time here. I'm gonna call it after the last DOM element, right? And let's just see what happens. So 0, 0, 1. So that would be the first one, right? You might be wondering, why did this even work, even though we haven't executed this? It has to do with, there's this weird feature of JavaScript called function hoisting. Did we talk about that? I think we talked about that. If you define a function like this in JavaScript, it kind of like magically gets lifted to the top of the script block. Don't worry about that, all right? It's weird. But the weird thing is, like, let me just kind of digress for a second. This totally works, right? Totally works. Instead of defining our function like this, see, this is like a totally acceptable way of defining a function in JavaScript, right? You can do two ways. This throws an error. Can't do it that way. Really weird. It's just one of those strange quirks of JavaScript. But back to our example. So it was 0, 0, 1. And that should probably make sense, right? Does it? Because this was executed when foo still wasn't on the page. And then this, it's also not on the page. Finally, it's on the page, and then we get a 1, right? So we have this function called getFooCount. Now, if we go back here and look at our like jQuery initializers, right? I think You know what? It just occurred to me. This should be, yeah, I think this is more helpful. Is that more helpful? These are functions. This has to be a function, right? You're passing in a function into this, it's into another function, actually. So let's see how that works. I wonder, okay, so that's the syntax, right? Just that. Passing the handler into this. So tell me, what do I have to pass into this to execute this function? Get food count, right? Let's try it out. Now, do I put the parentheses on it? No, exactly. So this is the function. So I'm basically saying, you know, it's kind of like the document.ready. When the document's ready, this is the function that you execute. Now, how do we execute a function, by the way? Like, how would we execute this? Execute. Yeah?
No, I was just thinking.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Think away. Parentheses. That's how we execute a function. What's that?
In JavaScript, you mean?
Yeah. Like we would do that if we wanted to execute the function, right? But in this case, we don't want to execute our function because if we execute the function here, what happens? It's gonna, well, actually, it would fully work here. Bad example. Oh wait, I want to do it up here though. Right. Like if we execute this function here, it's gonna look for foo, which doesn't exist yet because it's down here, right? Instead, we're not going to execute it. We're just going to pass this function in. We're going to say, hey, jQuery, when you're ready, this is the function that you're going to put parentheses after and execute, right? It's, that's simplifying, but that's how it works. And then, we can clean things up a little bit here. We don't need that. Just like that, much better. Let's run this. Cool, we got one foo. Exactly what we're supposed to have. So this should make some amount of sense, right? Some sense. A little bit of sense. Any questions, Karen? Yeah? Yeah? A little bit?
So we don't need to put the function in the parentheses.
Where?
The function get full count. No, the below line. Yeah, the whole part. We don't need to put them into the parentheses.
The whole function?
Yeah.
No. I mean, you could. Like it won't. Like you could totally. Like you mean like this? Oopsie, like that. You can do that, but it's kind of weird. Is that what you meant? Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's weird. I mean, I think it'll work. It'll work. Nope. It doesn't work. Yeah. Also, so this same thing. Same thing, right? These two lines are basically the same, doing the exact. Yeah, these two do the exact same thing. It's just this is shorter to write. Another thing that you can do too, and you'll see this a lot, so I want to prepare you to see it, is a lot of people. So the dollar function, it's actually a shortcut for that. It's the same thing. I just prefer to write dollar signs than jQuery, which requires you to hit the shift key and yada yada yada. See, it works. Same thing works. So it's up to you. Honestly, if you want to use this, fine. If you want to use that, also fine. The dollar or the jQuery. Just be consistent. Like, don't do this. Don't combine them. That's annoying. Try to keep it consistent. And the reason that there's two ways to do this is that after jQuery came out, a lot of other libraries started to use the $sign. And then also there's different versions of jQuery, right? Like there's jQuery 1, jQuery 2, jQuery 1.3, 1.5, whatever. So sometimes on really big projects, you might have multiple versions of jQuery on a website, or you might have multiple libraries that are all using the $sign. So having the ability to just specify it with jQuery just makes it a lot easier. So once again, it's up to you how you want to do it, but I like the $sign because it's shorter. I'm lazy. Yeah. So that's that. Okay, so you're like, great. So now that we have that, I think it warrants going a little deeper into the API, right? Now, because right now we can essentially, we have jQuery. We can actually use it here on our whole DOM. And now the only thing is like we don't know what are we doing? Like what is jQuery? Like what can you do with it, right? I think one of where's the API? Here's the API. Okay. So bam. Manipulation. Some of these should look really familiar to you right now. So add class, right? What do you think that does? Yeah, like add a class to an element, right? Pretty straightforward. I want to try out a couple of these just in the example file that we're creating here. So if I want to add, let's say I want to add another class to this right here. Who wants to? Oh wait. Okay, cool. Okay, so who wants to come up and use one of these? Use the add class method to do something. I will just point at you. Ken, why don't you come up here and do this? Come on, man, come on. You can do this. You physically just can't do it. I can't make you, I guess. Lindsay, do you want to try this out? You really can't do it. Chen, would you like to try? That's your name, right? I know it's like super similar. It's hard for me. Would you like to try? Come on, give it a shot. Give it a shot. You kind of know what you're doing here. Okay, all I want you to do. Oh yeah, where am I? So here's the file, right? That's the file, and then this is like it. Right? So all I want you to do is add a class to this element and make it be called Monday. If you need to look at the API documentation, it's right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to use this add class. One of my favorite things to do is look up examples.
Add class.
You can click it if you want.
It's called the Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Like this.
Sure. But no. Okay, first off, Monday, is that a variable that you define somewhere?
Ah. So to
Well, I just want the class to be called Monday. Does anybody help her out? How should this Monday be passed in? String, right?
string.
Like Monday, yeah.
I know.
There we go.
Here.
Nice. Yeah. If you look over here too at the add class docs, so If you look at class name right here, it says class name.
Mm-hmm.
And then here it is, class name, type, string. So you know that you have to pass this a string, right?
Yeah.
Now, the only problem here is that we learned about the dot operator, right? The dot operator is referring to the property of an object. So the dot will never be at the beginning of a statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
You use the dot on an object. That object could be an element, it could be really anything, it could be a string, it could be anything.
Mm.
What are we trying to add the class to? Go down to see. Here's how other people use it.
Is this? How can I press this?
Yeah, shifts and 4.
Here. Oh. So I have to select a place to put this thing.
Right. We just want to add it onto. We want to add it onto foo, basically.
Foo. Like this.
Close. The only thing is that that in the quotes is a selector. So true. Now the thing is, you already defined that there. That is foo. So you can just use the foo there.
Oh, so I don't need the string.
You don't need any of that. No, you don't need any of that. You don't even need the you don't even need the dollar anymore, because you already did it there.
Oh.
Bam.
It's like this.
Now the only problem is that go back to the documentation. Look at the name of the function. Add
Function.
class. Add. It's a spelling thing. The C. Okay, save it. Run it.
Oh.
Well, try it. I think it's the last one over there.
Here.
Yeah, and refresh. Now you won't see anything, so go to elements. Click on elements right there. There we go. Bam! Monday. Class added. So you feel an overwhelming sense of accomplishment right now?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Give it up. That was huge. Wow. Impressive. Do we all understand this here? So I think you probably hopefully get the point that you can create you create a variable that's referencing a selector, and then you can do stuff to it. One other cool thing about jQuery is that there's the ability, it's called chaining. So when let's say you want to add a class and then you want to remove another class, right? Let's say we want to add the class Monday and then remove the class foo, right? I don't know why we would do that, but let's say we want to add Monday and Tuesday, right? I think you can do that. No, you can't do that. Can you do that? Yeah, you can do that. You can just separate them with. And honestly, if you look in the docs, this is probably in the docs. I'm not making this up. Yeah, see, look, add class. You can have multiple in here, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's say I want to add a class, and then I want to remove. I'm just going to do stupid examples. God bless. Let's say I want to add a remove class foo. Right? Let's do that. Whoopsie. Oh, so there it is, Monday, Tuesday. Now, a shorthand way of doing this is instead of saying foo again here, I can actually, this is called chaining. I can do that. Whoa. Crazy, right? Huh? And if you want to make it more readable, you could also put it on another line, like that.
They're in a fixed order, or I can put them in random. Can I put remove class in the first?
Wait, can you put which class?
remove class first.
I think you can. Yeah. Yeah. Let's try it. Yeah, that worked. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this may be a little advanced. If the concept of chaining is a little complicated, you can just write foo again, right? It's okay. Let's look at let's look at something else. Something like maybe a little more interesting. Oh wait, let's go to one of my personal favorites, append.
Yeah, for me.
We can append stuff, right? So I'm going to click this and see. What are the docs? You can append content. What kind of content? A string, an element, an array. You can append all kinds of stuff, evidently. So let's try a string. That makes sense. So I'm going to do foo remove class, add class, and then I can do foo.append. Is this going to work? And then even I'll put like. Okay, let's try that out. That worked. Crazy, right? Nothing ever works. And that worked. Once again, I can shorten this if I wanted to by doing that. And then make it look pretty by indenting it a little bit. But this syntax is a little tricky though, right? Like why am I allowed to do a dot here and I wasn't before, right? But really it's because this dot is only here to make things more readable. This dot is actually referring to this right here. And the reason is, here's the reason. When you call remove class foo, it's returning the foo object. This function returns this object. So when you call remove class, it returns foo. So then when you're calling add class, it's actually doing that onto this object as well. So these things are all chained. You call foo, you call remove class. Now you're calling foo.add class. Now you're calling foo.append. So you're appending everything to this foo thing. Which is kind of weird. Once again, if this is confusing, you don't have to, you don't have to do it. You could always do this. Oopsie. Just make sure you get your quotes right. And if you mess this stuff up and you try it, it'll show you down here that you messed up. Does that make sense? A little bit? So once again, API. Like if there's anything you can really think of doing, it's probably in here somewhere. And there's probably some kind of like example or documentation that you can copy and paste at this point. Okay? So far we've really only looked at, what are these? The manipulator ones, right? Over here, manipulation. Oopsies. Traversing. These are a little more complicated. These are for finding a certain DOM element. If you feel comfortable looking these up, please go for it. I mean, I think it might be a little early to get into that yet, though. Just a little early. Okay. So anyway, this is the API. I recommend everyone look at it. CSS stuff. You can get the height, the offset, the position, and this is all here and available for you to look at. All right, where are we at on time? I want to talk about a really cool aspect of jQuery, which is like one of the reasons why it's so popular, and that's plugins. So do you guys remember the whole DRY principle? Don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. And don't repeat yourself. So plugins are so jQuery itself is a library, And then a plugin is kind of like a library of a library, right? It's just a reusable component that you can use all over your website on any project you want. They're generally free and of varying quality. And here's the official repository, like collection of all the jQuery plugins. And so if you look in here, there's like a ton of stuff, right? And these are all pretty useful things that you would see on a website, right? So like let's just fly through a couple of them. Let's look at image stuff because images are fun. So what's cool? I don't know. Photorama. I don't know. I've never looked at this before. So if you go here, there's like all the like versions of the project. Let's see. Read the docs. Here's the docs. What's up, dude? Is there a demo here? Dude, people who don't put demos to their... Oh, example, basic. Okay. This is a plugin, right? I mean, you've all seen stuff like this before on websites. Oh, look, there's like a little animation when you mouse over it. Like, this is a plugin. And it's free, and some guy provided it, and you can play with it or not, right? So going back, what else is there? It's a lot of like image plugins here. Gallery. Stuff's kind of boring, actually. Let's look at animation. Scroll Magic. This is pretty cool. Actually, yeah, Scroll Magic. So once again, try it. This right side here, try a demo and read the docs are probably the two most useful things here. I always just go straight to the demo. I don't care what this thing is. Okay, I'm going to scroll. Scroll Magic. Ooh. Fade, move, spin, scale. Text properties, pin, draw. I'm going back and forth here. Draw, white, color, unpin, parallax. Scroll Magic. Cool. Awesome. And then here they tell you stuff about the project. You can see, oh look, Scroll Magic is a complete rewrite of its predecessor, Super Scrollorama, right? Now, interestingly, when we look back here, here's Scrollorama, right? So like one thing to be aware of is that a lot of times the stuff you're looking at is old, right? You have to do a little bit of research on it before you just use somebody else's code. It even says, the jQuery check out this instead. They're basically saying, don't use this here, right? So we can go here. Oh look, Super Scrollorama. Okay, so new version. Click here to find more. And it takes us right back to Scroll Magic. So evidently, this is the one we want to use because both of the other scripts we looked at are pointing to this, right? So before you use a plugin, you want to actually research it a little bit. Maybe see one important thing is if you go to GitHub, which is just a site where people store a lot of their source code because it's free, a lot of it. You want to see stuff like how many people are watching this? 149. How many people have started? Almost 4,000. That's pretty good. Like that's popular. Like if something's got like 3 watchers and 2 stars, then it's probably a bad idea. And if the issues list is in the triple digits, then maybe you want to stay away from that thing, right? But this, I have personally used this before. It's a really great script. There's a lot of cool stuff. You saw what it did. It's awesome for those single page sites. So this is an example of something like, what's that?
Where's the code?
Where's the code? That's a great question. So yeah, wow. I probably should have told you that. Well, so, I mean, another thing, so, you get here, it's going to show you support, yada, yada. In almost all these sites, there's a link in the top right corner to Fork Me on GitHub. So you go to the GitHub site, and here you can download a zip file of it, right? Here's the code for it. I mean, if you want, and then if you scroll down, there's like all the documentation on how to use it. Here's how you install it. Once again, you can, I guess they don't have it on... Yeah, and there's really, most of these things, they give you like step-by-step instructions on what you have to do, and it's just following instructions. It's like, if any of you cook and follow recipes, it's just like that. It's like, do this, do that. Like, the only difference is if you mess something up here, it's useless, so you can't do anything. And then, you can see you create a controller, and then you create a scene, and then add stuff. This is a pretty complicated script, but like there's a lot of examples for it, so it's something you could use pretty easily. Let's look at like a couple more, just so you can. I want you guys to get an idea of like the kind of the power of what you can do here. And the other thing is that for a lot of these, you don't have to really understand what they're doing, right? You can make something pretty and customizable without writing a lot of code. And so that's I think the important thing to get here. Is like, as long as you know how to use these plugins and combine them together, then you can achieve a lot, right? Of course, once you get better at writing code, these get a lot more powerful because all of these things they have a simple set of basic functionality, but you can extend them by writing your own stuff on top of it to make them a lot more powerful. There's a lot of these parallax things. I feel like we just looked at one, so let's like get past it. There's that. Anything interesting here? Whoa, shapeshift. Demo, no demo. Ugh. She got a demo. I've never used this one, so I don't really know. Is this cool or what? Well, that's kind of neat. I don't know what you would use this for, but it's cool. Sure. Okay. Whoopsie. Whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like this. So that pretty much brings me, oh, whoa, what's this? Oh, there's so many of these. That pretty much brings me to the assignment, okay? So for the assignment, what I want you guys to do, and I totally didn't get through a large part of other stuff I wanted to cover, but that's fine, we'll do it next time, is, okay, I want you to find a jQuery plugin that does something cool, all right? Not something lame, something cool. You guys, I hope you know the difference between cool and lame. You can copy and paste to get started, sure, but I want to also see you try to use the plugin API, right? So all these plugins have an API. We talked about APIs. We can let me just show you one more time what an API might look like. I'm going to open up. Let's look at I don't know, anything. Parallax image scroll. So any one of these things, I'm going to look at it on GitHub. So in this case, the API for this is just some options, right? So when you create this, you create it by getting a thing, like getting a selector with a reference, calling image scroll, and you pass in some options, right? And then you can pass in all these options into the object, and it'll do different things. So that's really the API. The API here is very simple. And depending on what plugin you choose, it might be a more complicated or a less complicated API. So just I want you to actually, oh, bless. I mean, obviously, in order to do this, you're going to have to download jQuery or use it from a CDN, and you're going to have to like load it and then create some sort of page structure, right? Some sort of HTML file to house all of this, and then use a plugin. Now, I did some research, and I really liked. I have these. There's two really good lists here. This one's from last year, and this one's a little more recent, I think, from this year. And both of these lists are just some really, really high quality jQuery plugins that do cool stuff. A lot of them are kind of the same like scrolly things, or like this one's just for tables. This one's for little graphs. But like I don't know. I would say I'd like you to find something like this one. I thought was super cool. This is so neat, right? All this, and this is a plugin, right? So you can move this thing around, and then you can mouse over demos, and there's like things here, and you click that, and it goes to something else. But is this doing anything? Nothing. It's just creating like random shapes. But I don't know. I thought this was a really cool one. Like this would be an interesting, weird way to like show. I don't know. Like if you really wanted to annoy your users and make this your navigation, like don't ever do that. But like, I don't know, it could be an interesting way of viewing like your family tree or something like that, you know? It's just kind of a cool little script. And then, once again, this is all free, you know? I mean, you can just play with this. It's Arbor.js. How do you get to it? Oh, whoops, not you, Dan Kelly. I meant, yeah. Yeah, this one, I thought this had a... Like some of these, you know, it might be hard to find it. Where, like, how do you even find the script? That's annoying. Oh, that's important. Like, it's a cool plugin, but how do you actually find it? Oh, wait. Code. Arbor.js, demo. Oh, I didn't even see this. Docs, introduction. There we go. Cool. So, like, the actual website is built into this crazy thing, and here's where they show you how to use it, right? That's pretty neat. Did they say where the repo is? No, they don't. This was made like a few years ago, too. I guess you have to actually get the code from here. Oh, GitHub. Bam, there it is. Okay, cool. So they really made that interesting for us, didn't they? But anyway, so on this list are a bunch of really high quality plugins that are all free, I think. And so essentially, I just want you to make something cool with them. Masonry is one that I'm sure you guys have seen sites like this, right? Where you can have like content of all different sizes. Don't use a boring one though. God. I guess, you know, whatever. I can't give you the assignment and tell you not to use one. But yeah. I don't know. There's some cool stuff here. And so there's this list, you know, obviously slideshows and image sliders. That's cool. Those are fun. Whatever. Yeah. I mean, you could certainly take the easy way out and use like the time ago plugin, which just, you know, on websites sometimes it'll say like this was uploaded 20 minutes ago or whatever. But you know, try to keep the spirit of the assignment and do something actually interesting. Are there any questions about this? It should really just be like a project, right? We're not quite at the post your stuff to GitHub level yet. You know, give it time. Cool. Any questions? And we're actually going to end on time. No questions? Any question? Just one question? No one has questions. I'll post the video to the YouTube channel. Anybody wants to subscribe, go right ahead. Other than that, class dismissed.